Hello, my name is Striketh, and this is my review of the game Remember Me on PC. This is one of those games that comes along once in a great while. It, much like the title of the game, begs to be remembered. This game tickles every sci-fi geek bone in my body, and I so very much wanted this to be my game of the year. So, at 10 hours clocked in, I've completed the game. Was it worth full price? Did it live up to its promise? Stay tuned and find out. First up, the story. Remember Me takes place in the year 2084 in a very futuristic version of Paris, which they have dubbed Neo Paris. As you begin the game, you start out as what they call an errorist named Nilan, whom is imprisoned in Bastille Fortress and is undergoing a rather painful looking process of having all of her memories in her head ripped out. It's a very violent scene, and even though there's no physical damage to her body, they do a great job of making it look very visceral. In this world, science has mastered the ability to manipulate memories, and almost like transferring data from your computer to a USB stick, these memories can be pulled out of anyone's head and deposited either into a data bank or into another person. This obviously creates a lot of potentially bad scenarios, and the game does a good job of showing some of the side effects that could occur from this as you progress through the game. Now, after undergoing this rather painful process, Nilan is escorted from her cell by a robot and led to a line with other prisoners whom have undergone the same process. It's here that you are contacted by a mysterious person who calls himself Edge. This person is apparently talking directly into your brain, as I assume that any external communicators would have been removed from your person. Edge wakes Nilan up from her stupor and proceeds to break her out of jail, rather effortlessly to boot. I kind of wish they had made this a little bit tougher, but considering it was the very first scene of the game, I'm okay with the way they did it. So far, this is nothing all that revolutionary. We've all played games before where the protagonist is experiencing memory loss in some form. The way they achieved the result in this game is certainly unique, though I can't help but think that they could perhaps try a bit harder with the opening. Kind of imagine some writer sitting in a room full of other writers going, "Hey guys, quick, I need a plot point for how to open the story." One of shouting back, "Just give her memory loss, Bob!" I'm going to avoid spoilers as much as possible here, but as the story progresses, there are some twists and turns in the story which make for some excellent scenes. I especially love the parts where Nilan has internal dialogue with herself about the events that just occurred and how she feels about them. This really helps build her as a character and further solidifies her reasons for doing what she's doing. It's something that adds depth to the story, it's overall well done, it's something I appreciate as a gamer, as so many games tend to forget to do this. Next up is the gameplay. One of the most important elements in any game, this could be the deciding factor for many depending upon your preferences and what you want out of a game. Remember Me's combat is based around a combo system where you place various moves into a preset combo. This was one of the big features that was touted by trailers and the game devs before the game came out, and for the most part, it does deliver. The abilities you place in each combo determines what it does and how effective it is on certain enemies. For example, to gain some HP back, you can start your 3-hit combo off with health regen, followed by a bonus attack to increase the effect. Another possibility is, for example, starting a 6-hit combo off with a strong attack to break their guard, 2 cooldown reduction attacks, followed by another strong attack and ending with a health regen and a bonus to amplify the effect of the health gain. You can mix and match these how you see fit. The overall combinations of moves you can utilize are broken down to strong attack, health regen, ability cooldown, which reduces the cooldown on your special abilities just as the name suggests, and bonus, which amplifies the effects of the previous move in the combo. This is all well and good, but there are limitations. You can't change the order of the moves, so if a move is left right left, then it will always be left right left. Also, the combat system does suffer from a couple of issues. As you progress through the game, you get longer and longer combos. Also, the number of enemies you face at a time continues to increase. While you can dodge an attack and still complete your combo, it often becomes next to impossible at times to complete a combo as you can only get off a couple of hits before you need to dodge again. If you're hit even once, the entire combo is reset and you need to start over, which can be very irritating when you have 120 seconds on a special ability timer, and it's the only thing that works against the enemy you're fighting. There's a good number of boss battles and mini-boss battles, but unfortunately they recycle the battles quite a bit. There's even 2 mini-boss battles that are exactly the same, with the enemy just recolored the second time. He even has the same voiceovers. Combat against bosses basically comes down to a gimmick of some sort that relies on one of your special abilities to stun them out of whatever they're doing at the time. Oh, and there's quick time events as well. Yay, quick time events. These were obviously designed with console gamers in mind and are mostly annoying to some PC, especially since you need to know what the symbols on the screen mean since they don't tell you which keys to press. Fights begin to become repetitive towards the end of the game as you end up mashing the same combos fairly often with no real need to change them up. When you're fighting against robots, you can't use any regular abilities on them, so the only option you have is to slowly kill them with the spammer as they call it, which is utilized by holding shift to lock on to the enemy and then right clicking. It's basically a range ability that fires one powerful shot followed by a recharge period. This ends up being an extremely boring fight with a lot of rinse and repeat until you finally defeat them. The game also suffers from hardcore linear corridor syndrome. There's only one way to go to any objective, and if you deviate from the path at all, you die, or can't progress. I recall jumping towards an overhang that led to another roof at one point, only to simply slide off and die instead of grabbing onto the edge, simply because it wasn't part of the path forward. If you really enjoy exploration and open world games, I feel that you'll be sorely disappointed here. The camera and controls also do suffer a bit. I played with a mouse and keyboard and neither the camera or controls were that responsive. Plus the camera angle is quite limited. You can very much tell that it was designed for consoles and imported to PC. There's even parts where if your camera gets too close to you or to a wall, it'll spaz out and start spinning in a 360-degree circle. These are the major downsides of the game, and while they do sound pretty bad, it's very easy to forget about them as you immerse yourself in Nillen's story and the various environments you have to crawl through. Whilst the paths you can go are limited, the platforming is interesting and the environments varied, not to mention quite gorgeous. And thus, this leads us into our next part, the graphics of the game. How do they look, and do they hold up to current standards? Starting off with the actual in-game options, you're met with pretty standard fare. You've got your standard VSync, AA, graphics, and shadow quality options. Unfortunately, that's all there is to it really. High, medium, low, and off. They don't even tell you what kind of AA they're using. The game does have super sampling, which does make a significant improvement in overall quality, but as the name suggests, it's quite hard on your PC if you're running anything but beefy hardware. For reference, I'm running an AMD 955 Black overclocked to 3.8 GHz and a GeForce GTX 670 also overclocked, and was able to run the game smoothly throughout with all the video settings maxed out. Now, I'll say it here, this game is bloody gorgeous. There's so many amazing backgrounds, and the detail in each environment is nothing to sneeze at. You can really tell that they put a lot of love into this game. I feel that the only thing holding it back was probably budget and or time constraints, as a game that looks this good with a more open design like Deus Ex would have been Game of the Year hands down. I struggled to find bad textures. Trust me, I looked. Even when I was zooming in the corners and really looking for them, rarely did I find any textures that failed to impress me. Games have come a long way over the years, and we're finally at the point where expecting quality textures in new releases seems to be the norm rather than the exception. I can't get over how beautiful Neo Paris is either. As I was walking through this world, I couldn't help but want to explore every crevice of what they've created. At one point, you see a gorgeous backdrop that includes the Eiffel Tower, and I was completely stunned by the view. It just further saddened me when I realized I'd never be able to explore any of it. Overall, the graphics are top-notch. Even if you can't play on maximum settings, the game still looks good on lower quality settings, so you shouldn't be disappointed. Do note, however, that there's no NVIDIA drivers released with optimizations specifically for Remember Me yet, so there are some FPS drops at times as a result. Nothing too bad, however. So, this leads us on to the last category, sound. How does the game sound? How are the voiceovers? Let's find out. Sound isn't just about music and combat, but this also includes the voiceovers. The game does include voiceovers in multiple languages, including that of French, Italian, German, and Spanish, which is really excellent considering that most games only come with one or two spoken languages. I suspect that if I understood French and had played the game with that, the overall voiceovers may have been better. While the English voiceovers weren't necessarily bad, they range from simply okay to comical at times, and not in a good way. That being said, I was typically fine with Nillen's dialogue. She isn't the most memorable character I played, nor the most interesting, but I felt the voice actor did an overall good job playing the role she was given. It pretty much just came down to some of the secondary characters, but I did find some of Edge's dialogue to be quite bad too. There were times where some of his dialogue came off as weird or didn't sound quite right, and towards the end I feel like in places the quality of his lines dropped a bit. This is mostly the fault of the writers though. Now, as for the music, I really love what they did with this here. From what I've read, the composer was rather confused by the influx of information he was presented when he was employed to create the music for the game, and thus he opted to reflect this confusion in the main theme. You hear bits and pieces of it throughout the game, but it's not until you've reached the end of the game that you finally get to hear the full theme. I really like what he did here, and it's a very unique way to do things. Not to mention the fact that the music in combat is synced to how well you're doing. If you're getting off combos and avoiding attacks, the music really ramps up and gets you into it. But if you're getting smacked around, and the music just stops and delves into more melancholy sounds. This is a terrific mechanic, and it really drives you to want to do better in combat since the music is so fantastic. I had a couple of issues with voiceovers overlapping one another in the beginning of the game, making it difficult to understand what was being said, but aside from that, this issue doesn't really occur again after that, and everything was quite smooth. To wrap things up, this is a game that started development in 2008 and ran into some hurdles along the way. It was actually officially cancelled at one point after the company ran into creative differences with Sony. Considering all the problems this game has had along the way, I feel it turned out quite excellent. I do set up the game for a sequel at the end, so somewhere down the road we may yet see more of this world. Should that ever happen, I can only hope that they'll have a more open world next time around. Despite its flaws, I truly did enjoy my time with this game, and I hope that sales are good enough for us to see more of Neo Paris down the road. My overall rating of this game is a 7 out of 10. It's a good game built around a fantastical world that is worth your time. My recommendation is to buy it once it's on sale. You'll find the memory altering elements both wondrous and disturbing, and by the time you reach the end of the game, you'll have a difficult time pulling yourself away from Neo Paris. Thanks for watching. This has been my first full-on game review, and I appreciate you watching this video. If there's anything you feel could have been improved, anything you want more of, or anything that I missed, please feel free to comment below, and I'll try to rectify that next time. Have a good one, folks, and this is Striketh, checking out.
The privileged few, safe with their little comforts, while others live in suffering a few meters from their barricade.
No one chooses which side of the firewall to grow up on.
It's not their selfishness that I condemn, sister. It's their eagerness to forget everything that bothers them.